Good day to you folks. You're back again with the BBQ SKUUL, and today we're going to be whipping up a favorite of most events, festivals, gatherings, and just plain good eating. Some macaroni and cheese, or mac and cheese as most people call it. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to use, and I'm going to walk you through the whole process from start to finish so you can duplicate and do this on your own. And of course you can always doctor it up with whatever makes you feel good, but most importantly, what tastes good to you. So stay tuned. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to get into is your ingredients. Of course, there's many recipes out there that you can use to make mac and cheese. There's some that calls for using roux. Those are most time your baked mac and cheese. So don't confuse just a regular old mac and cheese to a baked mac and cheese. Those go into the oven and sometimes require a few other things. But your ingredients are going to be pretty simple. You're going to need some noodles, whichever ones you want. You're going to need some cheese, whichever ones you want. You're going to need some milk, whatever ones you want. And then you're going to need some type of seasoning, of course. So let me show you just the basic things that I use when I'm making my regular mac and cheese. Okay, first off, you start off with your noodles. Most people use for mac and cheese elbow macaroni. You can use any brand that you want as long as it's cooked properly and it can hold on to that sauce. That's the main thing you want. So here I got some elbow macaroni. You're gonna go anywhere from a pound or a cup actually to 2 cups, and most of the time you're going to be working off recipes that deal with cups of dry macaroni. So be sure to have at least a good couple of cups of dry macaroni. Next, you're going to need some cheese. As you can see here, I got some Velveeta Original. You'll find, once again, a lot of recipes that call for 5 and 6 and 7 different types of cheeses. Colby, Jack, cheddar, shredded, all type of different things. I like to be pretty simple and then doctor it up to where it tastes really good. So Velveeta has never really let me down. So you can go with Velveeta as your base for making your sauce, and you can go from there. Of course, you're going to need some milk. I use 2%. You can use whole milk. You can use whatever milk you want, but once again, it just has to do the job. And of course, you're going to need a basic seasoning. Here's some Old Bay seasoning. Old Bay is pretty good for anything. You can use your own house-made seasoning, salt and pepper, whatever you would like. The point is, get to doing it. Don't get held up by having a recipe with 17,000 ingredients and all type of stuff that you got to go out and import to get it here. Get a basic recipe, and I'll tell you, Velveeta has a basic recipe right in the box. Right inside of the Velveeta box, if I can get the sucker open here. But right inside of the Velveeta box, there is a basic recipe for making mac and cheese. Right inside of the box. So if you just use that, just use their basic mac and cheese recipe right there. Look at that. Ultimate macaroni and cheese. Start from here, and you can go and add and expand and then make something better to your taste and what basically fits you and your family better. So that's the first thing. You need your ingredients. Next thing you're going to need, of course, your stovetop, of course, but you're going to need a couple of pots. I use a bigger pot to boil my noodles in, and then a smaller saucepan to make my cheese sauce, because I want to make sure that the heat doesn't have to travel so far and you can get that cheese melted pretty quick. You want to have heavy bottom pans. You don't want any just pans that'll burn everything. You want some heavy bottom pans that will do the job. Most times I operate with just 2, so I'll go from the noodles being boiled to drain, and also the sauce right here, I'll pour the sauce right into this pot with the noodles after they've been drained in your strainer, which is also another tool that you'll need, is a good strainer. Simple strainer just to drain out the liquids, the waters from your noodles, okay? So basic stuff, pots, okay? You'll need some spoons also. Of course, you'll need some spoons to stir stuff around. But those are just basic things to get your mac and cheese going. So let's keep on moving. Okay, today I'm going to be cooking about 2 cups of dry macaroni noodles. So I want to have anywhere from 4 to 5 quarts of water, and to that I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil and about a tablespoon of salt. This just helps to keep the noodles from sticking and also starts to season and put some of that flavor into your noodles as they're cooking. So I'm going to get that going here on a pretty high heat so we can get the water boiling. So once the water starts boiling, then we'll be ready for the next step. While you're waiting on your water to boil, you can go ahead and start slicing up your cheese or shredding your cheese, depends on what your recipe calls for. For mine, this calls for 24 ounces of Velveeta. The cool thing about Velveeta is they have these little markings on the paper that show you where 4-ounce blocks are. So you can just count up. For me, I need 6 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll just use that little extra, and that'll make it even more cheesier. So I'm gonna go ahead and block up the cheese and cut it into pieces that will melt easier in the saucepan. Here you can see I have my cheese all cut up into about 1-inch squares. Just once again so that when it goes into the sauce pot, it starts to melt quicker instead of having a huge, thick block of cheese that will take forever to start to melt. And you're gonna wanna have that sauce on a low heat, so you really wanna pay attention, and you wanna have some blocks that'll melt and stir into that sauce a little quicker. Now that your water is boiling, you wanna add your noodles a little bit at a time, and be sure to stir them as you're dropping them in, because you don't want them to stick. So a little bit in, stir them up. A little bit more in, stir them up. You want that oil that you put in there to kind of get onto those noodles as they're coming in, and you're stirring them, bring them up to get a little coat of that oil, so that way they don't stick and everything will start to cook and not stick to the bottom. On to the next step. Now, as you can see, I've added blocks of cheese into the milk, and I'm letting it melt and mixing it up, making sure nothing burns. You want to use something like this. That way you can scrape the sides once the cheese sauce starts to melt. And it's also flat at the bottom, so that way you can scrape off anything that might start to stick on the bottom. You see my noodles are still boiling. I'm ready for them to come out in a bit, but I'm getting the sauce going so that way the noodles don't have to wait too long to get sauced over. So everything's going clockwork. Once again, just make sure you continue to stir this cheese sauce, and no matter what recipe you use, once again, it's up to you, your taste. I like to use stuff that's simple, then doctor it up, because I have some great Cajun seasonings and flavors that I can also add to basic stuff to make it taste awesome. And that's all what it's about, making good food on your time that you can make anytime for anyone, and just have a great meal. As you can see here, the cheese sauce is starting to come together nicely. You want to make sure all of that cheese incorporates with your milk and becomes a nice cheesy sauce that will coat that pasta and make that mac and cheese really cheesy and really delicious. Be sure once again to scrape the sides so that you don't get anything sticking and nothing missing. Alright, let's continue on. Now once your sauce is done, you want to go ahead and stir it into your drained noodles after you pour them out of the strainer, and then continue to mix and stir into your macaroni until everything is nice and coated. Pretty simple, huh? As you can see, I like my noodles to be nice and juicy and coated completely with that cheese sauce. Extra cheese sauce never is a waste. Now, once you've got it all mixed up and seasoned it to the taste that you like, allow it to sit and soak in those seasonings for at least 10 to 15 minutes before you want to serve it. The longer actually the better. As long as you maintain it on a very, very low temperature, it will continue to soak up those seasonings and flavors, and that macaroni will continue to absorb that cheese and all that nice goodness of flavors that you put in there. That way, each bite, each little piece of macaroni itself is a little piece of heaven, a little cheesy piece of goodness that will be enjoyed by everyone who takes a bite.